Welcome to the Soul Searching Girl podcast, where healing happens. Episode 139, The In-Between. I wanted to let you know that I have several openings for my 3-month private one-on-one coaching packages available to you. You can head over to my website at amyloganlife.com and check that all out. I would love to work with you one-on-one. I also want to let you know that I am offering for a short time a $39 mini session where I actually walk you through what it means to process some of your difficult emotions. I want to help you see what it is to process, feel your feelings, and not think your feelings. It will be a game changer for you. So take me up on one of those offers. I have that particular offer on my Linktree wherever you listen to my stuff. If it's over on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, you can find the Linktree there where you can purchase one of those $39 sessions, and I will be in touch straight away. Welcome back, Wildflower. I hope you are having a good week. I hope you've had a fun summer and that you've been able to squeeze some fun things in now that most kids are back to school. If you are in that time period of life, if you're not, kind of like me, the school schedule doesn't really mean what it used to. But anyway, I hope that you've had a really good summer. Today, I want to talk to you about something that is huge for me right now. And I'm assuming that if you are someone who has gone through some hard times, you are in the middle of hard times are in your rearview mirror, something along those ways. You've been deconstructing your religion, your marriage, your relationship with different people. I don't know, whatever it is. There is this space when you have kind of worked through a lot of it. You can see that you've been dealing with this in certain ways, and you get to the place where, okay, now it's time to make some decisions going forward. That's what I'm calling the in-between. That space can be really scary because you don't know who you are without the identity of whatever it is you just busted through or that you've been working through, right? And I think this is a place where most of us get stuck because we've been through the really hard thing, and it's a lot. It's very emotional. If you've been listening to me, you know that I've spent the past year and a half or so trying to figure some shit out. And it's been an emotional roller coaster. But I'm kind of like through the hard stuff. And I find myself, and maybe you find yourself in this space of going, well, who am I if I don't keep rehashing my old stories? If I don't go to those tender places of myself all the time because I'm trying to move forward, right? You're kind of like, who am I without the thing? If you guys are listening to me because of ex-Mormonology and my helping people through religious trauma, that's a really good example. When you bust through all that you have to with all the realizations and the emotional, you just get put through the ringer. It is a very hard thing to maneuver through. And you get to a place where you've made your decision about the church, and now you're like, but who am I going forward? This is the same if you're in a relationship, a long-term relationship, and you end up getting divorced or parting ways. Who are you without that person as your sidekick, right? That's really hard because our identity is so tied to couplehood, if that is your situation. Maybe you've ended a career of 30 years, 20, 30 years. And you're in this weird space of trying to figure out, what do I do now? Right? A lot of our identity is tied to the thing that we've just left, that we've just worked through. And so now we're like, okay, I'm ready to go. Let's go. And you're like, but who am I? I don't know. I don't know who I am. And I think something really tricky with trauma is we often identify with our trauma so much that if we're not thinking about our pain and heartache 24/7, what do we do with that space? And this became really real for me when I realized, okay, spent the last year and a half on an emotional roller coaster, really seeing some trauma that I had in my life. And I'm in it, right? Like in the thick of it. And then I kind of started popping my head up when I started feeling a little bit better. And to tell you the truth, it almost felt more comfortable to just wrap myself in my trauma again. Like that became a thing. And I just did a TikTok the other day about this. And someone asked, well, what do you do if you feel more comfortable being angry? And if you've been through anything big, you know that anger is a big part of it. And I said, well, when you are in the anger stage, that is more comfortable because it's you sticking up for the old you. Did you know that? Like when I think of all the religious trauma I went through, even all the stuff I've been through with my mom, And I have arguments in my head because, of course, I worry and ruminate about everything, working on that. And I would find myself clinging to that, going back to that, having conversations with people in my head and going over and over things, trying to find resolution. And I think this in-between space is we want perfect closure. We want to feel like, okay, I can see the way forward, but it's really hard when we're so kind of intertwined with our past and we don't know who we are without that identity of whatever it is. And so I really want you to think about that, because if you find yourself in the space, you don't know the identity of who you are going forward, because if you kind of let it go, you set your trauma down, you're like, I have worked on that and it's not making me as angry as it used to. If you find yourself getting excited moving forward and then you're like, oh shit, but I'm going to go back. Not that you're thinking it that way, but it just kind of happens. That's okay. That is part of it. It's a little bit of like a few steps forward, a few steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, right? Like we kind of keep doing this dance. I just want you to be able to see this in-between space as a space where you don't have to have all the answers and you don't have to hurry and figure it out. A lot of this affects your whole life, right? Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And so for you, if you were to sit down and define your in-between, what comes up for you, even hearing me talk about this? And if you listened to the meditation last week, I'm curious if it kind of primed your brain for this podcast today. What does your in-between look like? And what is helping you? Do you even know? Do you know you're in the in-between? If you're feeling stuck, my guess is you're in the in-between, because you have to trust yourself. And the in-between is perfect for trusting yourself, because you are taking steps forward when you don't have all the answers. So your identity shifts. You begin to see yourself differently after you've lived through your trauma or your big life changes. And so just be careful that you aren't looking for closure in the way that you think it's going to happen. Closure is going to happen when you decide you're moving on regardless. Because I think for so many of us, when we're in our healing journey, we think that that healing journey has to have like an end point, like a final line in the sand that will make everything clear in your head. And that's not my experience. Maybe you have been able to have that experience. It hasn't been mine. This in-between space has felt a little bit like, okay, I'm going to be living in some of this uncertainty. Not really sure what's coming next, but this is just part of this stage. And I think when you can get really clear with yourself about how this is just part of life right now, that you're in this uncertainty stage, when you can accept that, it won't feel so uncertain. Because usually we have like the fear of moving forward. Like, how do I do that? What does that look like? Let me tell you what that's going to look like. Instead of deciding you're going to ruminate about a conversation you had with someone or whatever it is, you're going to notice that you were ruminating, and you're going to decide in the middle of the argument you're having with someone in your head by yourself. Have you noticed you usually always win? That's something interesting to take note of. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. You are in the middle when you notice you're ruminating in the middle of it. That's when you're going to go, I don't have to ruminate right now. And this is why, if you remember a while back when I said for this year, my phrase was, I don't think that way anymore. And I was just using it as not to bypass some difficult things, but to use it as an awareness tool, because you can be ruminating in your head and not realize it's happening. And I want you to be able to catch yourself in the middle of the worry and rumination, the excessive part, and decide to change the channel. Because we stay stuck when we keep saying, I just need to keep thinking about this because I will be able to come to some form of closure. This is you being able to decide I'm moving on, which means in the middle, when you get to the place of awareness, when you can see that you're ruminating again, that's a sign of progress. Because for so many of us, that just goes on in our head all day long, and it's just part of life. And so this is you starting to change your identity. It's a place where you can give yourself closure. And it's a place where you can start moving forward, because in that space of being a little scared or uncertain about who you are, when you stop ruminating about the issue that you've been struggling with because you've done the healing work. Now, none of this is to bypass the healing work. It's in the space of the in-between. All right. So you've done the healing work and you're ready to move on. That means you have to be aware when you're doing your old habitual habits around that topic. All right. You will be less stuck when you start to set it down in the moment of the awareness that you're doing it. I think too, when you're in the space of the in-between, there is a little bit of grieving of the old you. Who are you without that story? That story that has been running the show for so long. I think it's really important to grieve or hold the space for yourself as you figure out who you are now. Your new identity. How do you want to think on purpose with intention? But it's hard to move on if you haven't been able to sit with yourself and mourn the loss of whatever it is that you're moving on from. And this is why so many of us stay in the anger phase or the confusion phase, because we may not know that actually what we need to do is grieve the old, right? We're honoring that part of us because it was a part of your life. All right, another one that I want to mention in the in-between is that you don't have to have this space all figured out. But I think when we've gone through something major and we had our breakthrough and now we're in the space, we think we have to know all the answers. You don't. How could you? You haven't lived this phase of your journey yet. And so if you can kind of set down that intense feeling of having to have it all figured out, you're going to feel better because you don't. I don't have to figure this out yet. Add the yet on to your thought process, all right? I don't have to have this all figured out yet. I can just be in the in-between. I like to look at it as giving yourself permission to just be in this little phase in between what you knew and the direction that you're going. And I think you'll know that you're healing when you can even handle doing something else. So if you're trying to figure out who you are now without your old story, without the thing that you've been through, your brain starts to, especially when you change the channel, okay, Amy, okay, Wildflower, I'm not going to repeat that story 10 times today. What happens is when you catch yourself and you change the channel, you get to discover new things about yourself. You get to go, well, what do I want to do with my life if I'm not going to keep rehashing the old? You get to spend time figuring things out and exploring new things maybe you haven't. And I think when we think, I don't have a hobby or I don't have something that I like to do, we think that if we start it, let's say you wanted to try tennis, or you wanted to take an art class, or whatever it might be, a ceramics class. It doesn't mean that you have to now be married to this hobby for the rest of your life. It could just be something you're experimenting with, that you're exploring. But when you notice that you're actually giving yourself permission to do something, that's a good sign. That's a good sign that you're willing to take a step to do something maybe you've never done before. That's why I feel really in my work that I do with my clients, I feel like helping you learn how to trust yourself is such a gift. Because especially for those of us who've grown up with high demand religion, a patriarchal society, maybe we've had controlling and manipulative parents or a partner, that your trusting yourself muscle is very weak. And I look at this in-between phase of life as the place where you get to start strengthening the ability that you have to trust yourself, right? Where you're tapping into your intuition or your inner guidance to help you in this kind of uncharted territory that you have never been in before. Learning to trust yourself is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, because then you get to give yourself permission to not have to have it all figured out, because you can say to yourself, but I have my own back at every turn. I'm going to figure it out when I turn this way, when I turn that way. I trust myself to figure it out as I go. Let that be your mantra. If you find yourself in the in-between, say to yourself, I trust myself to figure it out as I go. Because I think we think, oh my gosh, I have to have all the answers for every possibility that could possibly happen in my future. And I don't know about you, but when my head goes in that direction, I get very overwhelmed. And then I just want to crawl under the covers and, stay there forever. So learning to trust yourself means I'm going to trust myself right here. I don't have to trust myself at the 20 steps beyond that. I'm just going to trust myself right here. Now, you may feel lonely. You may feel a bit of isolation in this transition you find yourself in the in-between. Because truthfully, people don't understand exactly what you've been through because they aren't you. But I think we want people to really understand what we've been through. And you're lucky if you have one or two people in your life that are willing to sit with you in the hard times. That's a gift for sure. But when you are feeling lonely or sad in the in-between, Instead of beating yourself up thinking, wow, I should just be over this. I shouldn't be lonely. I shouldn't be this, that, or the other thing. What if you just let yourself be lonely? See the difference in the feeling of that? It's okay to be lonely. How do you want to nurture yourself and hold the space for yourself as you're feeling lonely in this space of transition? It's important to take little steps, take baby steps in the in-between. You don't have to have huge strides straight out the gate to figure out who you are and what you want to do with the rest of your life. But you can get excited that you read a book in this time of addiction to phones or that you actually allowed yourself to go in the lake this summer, put on a bathing suit and swim, right? Whatever it is that for you has been a big step, might not seem like a big step to other people, but it is to you. Get excited about that. And also when you're in the in-between, know that there may be a bit of an emotional roller coaster if you're feeling like you have to have everything figured out all at once. It's a journey, right? Even the in-between is going to have its ups and downs. But I just have found with myself, I was starting to judge myself thinking, okay, you've done all this healing work. You should just be straight out the gate, ready to go for the next thing. That's not really how it works. Sometimes we need to be gentle with ourselves because we've just been through a whole lot. All right, think about a woman having a baby. That's a very traumatic physical thing for a woman to go through. And you don't just go home and, 2 days later or 1 day later, however long they let you stay in the hospital these days, and you're just bouncing off the walls with excitement and your body's ready to go for all the things. No, your body needs that time to just be moving a little slower. Same thing when you go through an emotional traumatic experience, is you might just need to be going at a slower pace. And don't beat yourself up if you can't go at a big fast pace right now when you're in the in-between. Pay attention to your old stories and the worry and the rumination while you're in this kind of phase. Not that it's limbo, but that it's, your nervous system is in the space of healing. So too much too fast is not necessarily a good thing. And when you can see that you're still struggling and maybe you catch yourself ruminating, just see that that's part of it. Don't beat yourself up because you're doing it though. Just see that it's part of it and know that when you become aware, you can change it. In the in-between is also a space where you can give yourself permission to rest and pause before you move forward. That's why it's the in-between. You get to decide, what do you want to do with the space when you don't really know? You don't really know the new you that's kind of emerging because you haven't gotten to know her yet. You have never been in this situation before. So if you are wanting to be a best friend to yourself, how do you treat yourself in this space? Think of someone who's just run a marathon. I went and watched my son and my nephew last year run a marathon. And watching the recovery phase after a marathon, it was I have never run a marathon. It's not really one of my goals, just so you know. But I am in awe of you who do run like this. But watching my son and my nephew recover and what they needed to go through, and just watching their body readjust to kind of a more homeostasis type of being after their body just went through something traumatic, because I think running 26.2 miles is a traumatic thing on the body. And so you have to be able to give yourself permission to rest, whether it's a marathon, an actual marathon, or a marathon of working through all that you've been working through over the past several years. Give yourself permission to rest. Your nervous system needs it for sure. I feel like when you've gotten to the in-between, that this is where you can start recognizing your growth. You know what you've been through. You know what you won't put up with anymore. You're probably better at boundaries. You're probably better at speaking up for yourself. I'm saying better. I'm not saying 100%. You're probably better at these things. And the in-between is probably a little bit scary because it's I'm going to have to continue to place boundaries. I'm going to have to continue to practice speaking up when I'm a little scared to do it, right? That's why it gets scary, because you're oh, now I have to do the things that I learned. And we only get better at it by doing it. And so I think when you're in the space of in-between is reminding yourself, I am learning and strengthening myself every day. And there's no rush and there's no race to this. I can just be. You can just be in the in-between. I really, really feel that the in-between is a gift. If you can recognize that you're in the in-between. This space can be really, it's a fertile ground for you to decide who you want to be on purpose. Instead of the person that you have become because of societal pressures, your family situation, patriarchy, maybe high demand religion, whatever all of that is, how you've been socialized in this world, when you finally realize you don't have to continue with all of the expectations other people have for you, you get the gift of the in-between. Because what that means is you have the awareness of what you've been through, and you also are looking in the direction that you want to go. And this space is so exciting, really. Fertile ground to plant new ideas into your head. It's really a transformational period. It's not really just a waiting room. If you find yourself getting frustrated, like, I'm just sitting here, this is just hard. No, change the way you talk to yourself. That's the whole point, Wildflower. That's why we do this work. And you have to recognize in the moment, oh, I'm doing that thing that, like for me, like it's been 55 years of behaving a certain way or learning how to be a certain way. I'm changing it now. And that means sometimes I have to just slow down when I'm getting frustrated with myself because I think, you know what? I've never run this marathon before. I have never been this age before. So the ground feels a little wobbly, but I can wobble. It's okay. If you can look at the space that you're in as the in-between with a hopefulness about it, I think you're going to move through that space a little bit quicker. Now, it's a gray area, right? There's no finish line to the in-between. You just start noticing that you're not worrying and ruminating so much, and you're not maybe crying as much, and you're not like in a fetal position on your bed as much. But I think because we are our own worst critic, we don't really look at it that way. But I want you with me for just a second. I want you to think about who you are now versus who you are before this healing journey. How have you changed? There's your homework. I want you to sit down, get a piece of paper out, open up your laptop. I want you to write down the ways in which you've changed that you're really proud of. That's the place where you can build on top of and move forward. But because the human brain is designed to protect you, when you're being kind and compassionate with yourself, you're going to feel like maybe that's not the right thing to do. I need to be worried. I need to think of all the possible things that can go wrong in this new identity that I'm trying to form when I don't even know what that means yet. All right? Tone that down. That's why I want you to sit down and write out all the things that you're really proud of. That like, wow, I fucking did it. I made it through the storm. Now, if you're in the middle of the storm, that's okay too. We work through that stuff as well. But right now, this is just basically for the space of the in-between, because I don't know, I just started getting obsessed with this because I started seeing myself in the space of the in-between, and I was really scared at first. And then when I could self-talk, talk to myself, hey, Amy, you haven't done this before. You've never busted through this much stuff. Well, kind of, but different. You've never been right here before. So I want you to do that. I want you to write the things, come up with 10 things that you're proud of yourself for. Can be related to your trauma or not. But I want your mind to start developing new neural pathways so that you can build off of those into the path that you're going forward. Okay, Wildflower, this in-between is such a magical place. Because you get to rewrite your story. You get to decide what knobs you're going to turn down in your brain, which ones you want to turn up. That's what the point of the in-between is. Okay, keep trusting yourself. I know you got this. I really do. You are going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And you know what? You're going to be the one to do it. Keep going. Keep believing in yourself. You got this. I'll see you next time, Wildflower.